Hello again. I've spoken a lot throughout these videos of how the promotion of private assets follows the shop window approach, where it's presented as something very dynamic and innovative in promoting high-tech companies and helping Britain grow and so on and so forth. And there is some of that, as I've acknowledged, but behind it there are more sinister aspects, and I've featured these many times, and that is the trading of vulnerable people through local authorities, courts, and then on to private equity. So your individuals become cash generative assets. And I've pasted in an historic Guardian article which does a reasonable job of outlining how this is happening in terms of the alarming growth of private equity in this particular instance, foster care agencies, independent ones. And you'll see from the figures how commodified it's become and how large these groups are becoming as they consolidate. And I covered this on a previous video, where these agencies start off as small, they break off from local authorities. They're very incestuously linked with local authorities. Then they grow, and then all of a sudden you have a consolidating private equity vehicle that hoovers them all up. And that process is continuing at quite a pace. And there's ambitions for it to grow further. And the role of private assets is crucial in helping private equity strip out aspects of the public sector, whether it be in social care, healthcare, schools, things like that, and even defence eventually, as I've also covered on in a video. And as these vehicles get bigger, they in essence need more liquidity, but they don't want that liquidity in a transparent way, and that's where your Pisces platform comes in. And I'll just quote some aspects of an article that was published on Investment Week on the 21st of October, and a chap called Simon Wall from the FCA was talking about this Pisces platform, which nobody ever really asked for, certainly not in my side of the industry. It was a push from private equity. You'll always find that private equity is very, very close to politicians. You only have to look at donation records to find that. And I'll quote this bit here. In December 2024, the FCA admitted that through Pisces, some form of insider trading will be permitted, as it's acknowledged that trading on confidential information will be permitted under the framework. He tries to patch that off by saying it's just allowing employees to sell some shares, but employees sell shares on public markets, and they do it in a regulated, transparent way and outside of closed periods and things like that. So this is rubbish. So what he's trying to do, effectively this is a euphemism, but by saying that the transactions can take place with little to no information, which is perfect for this trade, because if this trade was on the AIM or the main market, which it's suitable for, because effectively they're commodifying children and other vulnerable people and turn them into cash generative assets. Because you need to understand, as alongside this, there's some other interesting parts as well. One is the very close link between these agencies and the local authorities. The other is the enormous growth in long-term care orders pushed through by courts who sit privately, no juries, and often these judges are former employees of this industry, have also links with private equity. And the interesting thing about your long-term care order is, of course, the child becomes a longer-term asset and it becomes more valuable. So I'm hoping I'm giving you a flavour. I've covered this all before, so this is already coming into play exactly how I said it would. And if you go back to your rape gangs, I also told you there would be problems over this. This managed inquiry, managed accountability, because if you did it properly, you would see that this same private equity trade, a little bit different in these instances because you have to look at the ownership of care homes, which is also becoming more and more interested and under the influence of private equity. You would have to look at the complicity of the local authorities, the lawyers, the judges, the court officials, the police, the politicians, and private equity. It's the same process, and of course people are going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that accountability is suppressed, because it's the same trade. So I hope that gives you a flavour for where we're going with our research and why we've had these issues, because I guess if you look at the series of videos, we start in the financial sector with wealth tech, and we're coming back to the financial sector with this this awful trade of vulnerable people. And remember, when you're given information, it's always shop windowed. The way it's presented is the way they want you to see it. You need to go into the shop, check the stock, check the shelves, and see what's really there. Quick one on Ukraine. It's kind of followed the pattern that I thought it probably would, in terms of Trump was due to meet Putin in Hungary. That looked like it was going ahead, and that's not going ahead now. One reason that they suggested it was over territory, but if you also look at the timing of John Healey here in the UK, announcing intentions to allocate up to 100 million to put UK troops into Ukraine, it was almost perfectly timed to scupper the talks. It was done on purpose because, and essentially, they know that Putin, having gone to war to, in his presentation to protect the rights of ethnic Russians in Ukraine, and also to stop the continued encirclement by NATO, having UK troops or other NATO country troops in Ukraine would be untenable. So he did it on purpose to scupper the talks, because you've got an issue where essentially the UK faces a difficult situation that if what's going to be inevitable, the Ukraine has to cede quite a lot of territory to Russia. And I'm saying I'm not supporting the Russian invasion. I understand the provocations, but I don't support the invasion. The UK will have a difficult position because they will have to explain to Ukrainians why Boris Johnson and his associates scuppered talks sponsored by the Turks in 2022, only a few months into the war, which would have left Ukraine in a better position than it's going to be, and there would be an enormous amount of lives saved. So you can see the politics starting to bubble up, and how ridiculous it is. The country is claiming that it's going to allocate 100 million to put troops into Ukraine, when in the financial year to date, as yesterday's figures show, the UK has already borrowed £100 billion. So you can see whether it be the role of private assets in helping what is essentially take third estate money, taxes, route it through the care or whatever vulnerable system it is, and into the pockets of private equity. And Ukraine's going to be the same. Private equity want to be involved in the reconstruction of Ukraine. They want to be involved in helping finance huge amounts of weapons to be bought from the Americans to give to the Ukrainians. It's all very corrupt, but you need to read beyond the headlines. So hopefully you can see now why I've posted these videos and where it's all going. Take care.